Hi there everyone, my name's Tim Sheehan, editor of the Brewers Journal, and I'm very happy today to say we're here at Hackney Brewery, and I'm joined by John Swain, co-founder of Hackney Brewery. How you doing, John?
Hello, I'm good, buddy.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
I feel like our sort of trajectories, should I say, have kind of like aligned a lot in, the last couple of years.
Yeah. When did you come and do the?
It was around Christmas time because it was cold.
It was cold.
And there was a good group of you guys there, and several canines, which was always joyous.
And several other people.
And several other people.
Yeah.
It made Hackney Brewery look like Slipknot with the amount of people on the cover.
They're just our faces. That's not our marks.
No, that's fair. But they were all really cool people, and it was a great time. But for people that don't know, things have changed a lot since then.
Yeah. So you came to see us in the Railway Arches.
Yes.
In Haggerston.
Yep.
Which is where we started. We started in 1, and then we got 2, and then we decided that Railway Arches are probably a bit too small and not quite suited to what we want to do going forward. So pre-pandemic, if we want to talk about the before times, we had this place lined up, and then the pandemic hit, and everything put on pause. Everything closed, and it became very difficult to do anything. Luckily enough, we had a lot of support from the community around where we were, and we did a pay it forward campaign. So we wanted to open we knew when we were going to move, we wanted to open a tap room, because we never had a tap room in the old site. Mm-hmm. It was all, one side was basically this brewing facility, and then the other side was a cold room and offices. And that was it. And it was full. It was full of stuff.
Yeah.
There were pallets and pallets and pallets. So to start work, we had to pull out like 20 pallets, and then we could begin. And then at the end of the day, we had to fully clean everything, because those railway arches were quite damp and wet and quite prone to being mouldy if you didn't keep on top of it. So we had to clean down and then bring the 20 pallets back in. The amount of work we were adding to our day was quite significant. So no room for a tap room.
No.
So we wanted to make sure that wherever we moved to, we didn't have to move 20 pallets before we started working. We could clean it down a lot easier, and it was a space that was suitable for a tap room that we can have. The idea was to have it open all the time, which it hasn't quite happened because of, I think, Monday to Wednesday is always going to be a hard ask for a lot of trade. I mean, we're not in a central position here. We're out in Walthamstow now, or Waltham Forest. We're right by the wetlands reservoirs. So yeah, just Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday at the moment. We did, when we first opened, do the full week, and it became quite clear that Monday to Wednesday wasn't quite the turnout.
I think it's all a learning curve, isn't it?
Yeah,
about learning what works, what doesn't. Obviously today it's a little quieter. No brewing going on, but obviously a lot more of the other side, which people could hear in the background. But this is the beauty of recording and shooting in a...
Yeah, the machines and the bubbling.
It is, and it's great. And, you could put that on the sort of rainforest sound app thing, for people to fall asleep to. But I love the old place, and location was great. I think location
was wonderful, yeah.
But I think location is different here, but it's also great. There's obviously a community which we'll touch upon later, but I imagine the tap room, in addition to more space, tap room must have just been really high on the, the agenda of things you want from a new spot.
Yeah, that was inspired from our trips to the US. I think Pete went to Seattle, and I spent a lot of time in New York, and it seemed like every tap room that we went into, it was tap room focused, and there was a brewery there, but it's that similar vibe of just like, we make it here, we sell it here, and it's a dedicated space for people to visit, for people to be kind of like immersed in what we do and how we do it, and how we kind of present ourselves. And so we wanted a space like that. And I think in the UK, tap rooms are, or can be. Well, I think it's changed a bit over the past few years, but they've always been a space that during the week is kind of production heavy, and then gets turned into a tap room with that wheel out a bar or change it around. I mean, it depends how often you're kind of going to be open, I guess. But
I feel like in the States, tap rooms are almost like destination spots where you go there, even if you're not into beer, you're going there for an experience, something to eat. There'll be other drinks. You can bring children, you can bring dogs, other animals, I'm sure. And it's more of a day out. And, places like, Treehouse, or for instance, huge queues, picking up, like slabs of different cans for the next week, 2 months or whatever, you know.
There's a different culture over here, though. So we were trying. So again, as with our beers, we kind of blend that kind of English traditions with American flavors and American style. So big hop, bold flavors, and with sessionable ale strength English malt backgrounds. So that's and the same with the way we kind of present this brewery is. We'll cater for kind of everyone with in a kind of the style, but we don't have that kind of queuing culture. Despite English people loving a queue, we don't have that for beer, and I think that's an interesting trait that we haven't taken. Because it's a bit of a strange one for our perspective, looking at people queuing. It's just like...
I think space seems to be a bit of an issue. Like in the States, obviously, it goes without saying, land mass is far greater.
Yeah.
If you've got the resources, time, money, personnel, it makes sense to do the tap room, because if people are driving however long to get there, you need to give them a reason to stay, not rather than just pick up the beer. I mean, if you were opening a brewery today, would you even consider it without a tap room?
No, not at all. It's from a freshness perspective of beer. I mean, it doesn't come. It goes to -1 degree here in tank. It gets packaged, put in a 5 degree cold room, and then gets moved to a 3 degree cold room, and is direct drawn through straight through the wall into the glass. So it never travels, it never goes above 5 degrees, and we turn around everything in a couple of weeks. So it's super fresh. I mean, a lot of the time we brew and it comes into packaging, it's out that week or maybe the week after. So even if you drink it in London, we only distribute into London really, so if you're drinking a pint of it, it's only going to be a couple of weeks fresh anyway. So
that's always been a calling card, I think, of Hackney's beers.
I think for a lot of London, like, just because that's it doesn't travel. You're not travelling it across the country or over the water or London beer being drunk in London pubs is kind of a fresh take on everything. So it's and going to the tap room removes even one of those steps of really good beer in London. So it's it's good. I wouldn't open it without one. It's for sure.
100% agreement. I think, obviously, I think in any business, to exist, to even start a business is an incredible achievement. To exist 5, 7, 10 years down the line, and then you are now 12-ish.
12 in July. We hit them. Is that a milestone? Not really a milestone. 15, I guess, is the next. Yeah,
but I mean, in a competitive, crowded landscape, it's something to be incredibly proud of.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like 12 years. In some ways, it does feel like 12 years.
Yes,
but it feels like yesterday. We've been in this site now. This is our 3rd summer in this site.
Wow. Yeah.
It feels like we've just moved here. It's just like, I think was opening during restrictions and post-lockdown, whatever chaos was happening then. It's probably kind of added to the fact that how it doesn't seem so long ago.
Yeah.
But I
think time's been warped for a lot of people. What happened when? Yeah. A month can feel like a year ago, and the other way around, really. I mean, 12 years. Started it with your friend and colleague, Pete.
Yep.
Can you tell us a bit more about how the idea of Hackney came about?
So Pete and I met at the Eagle in Farringdon.
Yeah.
And
Legendary pub.
A legendary gastropub that...
Does it not have the reputation for the first gastropub, or?
I think they like to think themselves as the first gastropub,
Okay.
but I know that there's some contention, but I will always consider them the first gastropub, but the facts around it,
Yeah.
the records of that day.
Yeah.
So yeah, we met there, and I was working in the music industry alongside that, and I kind of had enough of it to the point where I left the music industry side of things, and went right, I want a change of career, I want a change of pace, somewhere that's maybe a little bit more hospitable to exist, because the music industry is notoriously difficult.
Yeah.
So I went back to the Eagle after leaving with my studio job, and was chatting to Pete, Mike, the owner of the pub, and they were talking about starting their own pub. So I was like, okay, well, maybe I could get in on that. And at the same time, a friend of mine, Toby, offered me a managerial position at another pub. So I thought, okay, well, I could get in with this group of guys starting a pub, but I can get some managerial experience with the Charles Lamb. And I thought I'd only be there for a year while we looked for a site. 3 years later, we were in a position where over those 3 years, Pete and I were like homebrewing after a drunken night of chatting about how my dad used to make fruit wines in the airing cupboard, and his granddad used to make like kit beer out of like a tin, and we were just like, how does it work? How do you do it? How do you do beer?
Yeah.
So I think I got home and ordered a small homebrew kit. It was like a bunch of buckets basically, and then a week later it all arrived, and I met him in his kitchen. We started homebrewing, and alongside all the other things that were going on,
Of course.
just got really into it. And so like 3 years later, still couldn't find a pub. The other guys who were involved with starting the pub went to go and do other things, and it was just me and Pete that were left. But over those 3 years, we had the opportunity to visit a load of different breweries that had just kind of opened, like the Colonel, Camden, Brody's, Windsor and Eton. We even got a trip to the Green King at some point, but it was
cool.
It's amazing building.
Yeah.
And then we were considering it, maybe an option where we could just find a little shed somewhere and brew some beer, because we had plenty of friends who ran pubs, so we were like, okay, potentially that's a thing, and had some great support from the early days from some of the locals who drank in the pubs that we were in, and managed to get a browway arch and a brew kit and some experience from a couple of courses that we went on, and we thought, it's just big homebrew. That's just all it is, and it turns out it's not. It's far more involved.
What were the first beers like?
Not how we were expecting them to be, because the scaling up process is not just a case of like multiply everything.
No.
It's the efficiencies all change at different stages. So initially our APA was quite dark, quite bitter.
Okay.
And that, it's evolved over the years. It probably hasn't stopped. In fact, it's Kapow now. So the lineage of recipes kind of go very back to the beginning. Obviously, we don't make a best bitter anymore, or a golden ale so much, but the roots were all kind of still there for those kind of beers. And that's kind of how we started. Just wanted a change, and we got lucky with the timings. I think we started in 2011. A week after us, I think Beavertown started. A day after that, London Field started. I think by the end of that year, there were 30 breweries in London, and when we started, there was like less than 10, I think, proper breweries.
Yeah.
There were a couple of brew pubs as well. So,
but it's still a lot of hard work and effort and determination to stick at it.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, absolutely.
It's good timing, but also that's only part of the equation. I mean, you said you wouldn't open a brewery now without a tap room.
Yeah.
And it's great to see there's still London breweries opening up and elsewhere in the UK and beyond.
It's coming back again.
What's the sort of 1 or 2 pointers you'd give to a potential brewery founder, owner now, starting out at a very different time than it was in 2011?
Make sure you got good funding for marketing, and it's difficult. So it depends what you want to do within the business. So I tend to do a lot more of the production side of things. Pete tends to do a little bit more of the back office, admin, logistics, basically all the other stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, you need everyone bringing their A game, really.
He works very hard behind the scenes. So it's, I think if you're starting a business, know what you want to do, and if you want to just be a production side of things, go in with it with someone who knows the business side of things, because it's not as clean cut as you think it is. No. It's not just like make it and sell it. There's so much more that it just doesn't get shown. No one really talks about.
No.
We're talking about duty rates and.
Yeah, I feel like obviously there's so many breweries now and so many brilliant beers, but there is still a potential gap for people that need that. Yeah. That helping hand.
Business guidance is.
So you moved from Hackney, and now we're here in Blackhorse Road, home of the Blackhorse Beer Mile.
Yep.
I mean, going from your production facility there that didn't have a way to sell beer direct to something now that's part of this burgeoning, brilliant beer community, I guess. So
yes,
must be great.
We had so old neighbours down the road from us in Hackney, like 40 foot, Beavertown, wherever the road for some of it, and then moving up here where there's 4 or 5 within a stone's throw, and then another couple over the reservoirs. It's a proper community. If you're short on something, someone's got it. It's one of those. Everyone helps each other out. It's buzzing. We've all got a very different take on the way we make beer, present beer, and the things that we have in our tap rooms. They're all very, very different, and so it's very, very eclectic, and it's quite a journey as you travel up the mile into all the different spaces and how different beer can be on different brew kits with different ingredients, and we've got like 20 taps here. All of that's different beer. Over the road's got like another 5 or 6 different beers, and then I think add it all up, there must be like 100 odd beers on this mile.
Yeah, I'm going to need to get going soon if I can't get through all of them, to be fair. But that's it. It's, different breweries, different identities, different beer styles. It's really fascinating. And obviously the types of beer styles that Hackney produced over the years, as you touched upon, a best bitter early on, and then Kapow, an evolution of an APA. I mean, hazy, hop forward pale ales. Brilliant.
So we've got a core sour now as well. It's just like that kind of style didn't really exist.
No.
For a long time.
And I think you've made your name on really drinkable, sessionable beers.
Yeah.
Of which sort of millions of peaches, the peach and basil sour, and millions of Melba.
Yeah.
You've really got a real good following of those beers.
Yeah.
Can you share maybe some of your process or brewing secrets? I mean, how you make beers like that are so drinkable, so balanced, and as a result, so popular. So
the Millions of series kind of came from one of our old brewers. It came from a series that we did. So one of our old brewers, Darren, he suggested we do a sour beer, and I was just kind of getting into them with like Siren Calypso was a gateway back in the day of sour beers. So this is great. I remember having a hot summer day with my mate, and we were necking pints of it. It was great. It's quite a low ABV. It's quite sessionable. We were like, okay, let's give one of these a go. Let's see how it works. I mean, it's a bit more. Back then, we used to brew it with lactobacillus strain, where you'd kind of part boil it in the kettle, and then I think the first one we did actually in the kettle as a proper kettle sour. But then we moved on to where we were using fermenters, because our fermenters have got heating elements in, so we can hold the temperature at 40 degrees like pretty consistently, which made a huge difference from the the kettle to the fermenting sour. Anyway, and then you'd run it back, and then you'd spend ages boiling it. Now we use Philly sour for Philly yeast, which kind of you treat like a normal beer. You do it at proper boil, and then you run it off, and then it ferments in 2 stages where it drops a pH, and then it ferments the sugars. So the original projects that we were doing were called the Stooge project, where we would brew a batch of something as a base beer, and we would split them into 3 tanks and then do 3 different things with them. So this Millions of Peaches came from that. Was one of them. I think one of them was a dry hopped, one of them was just a goes, so salted, and then the other one was peach and basil. Darren had come up with the idea from a cocktail that he had out one night, and it was like peach and basil. It was quite tangy, and it was just like, okay, we were like, let's give it a go, and it turned out to be the best selling out of the 3, and we decided to make it an annual, like the next year we did a full batch of it, and then it's kind of grown to now being in demand, so it's a core range. We make it all year round now, and now our annual is billions of, so it's like a double version.
Yep.
Where it's essentially the same recipe but with just half the water, and it's like 8%, and it's in theory double the peaches, but it's the same amount of peaches but half the volume, if that makes sense. So
that's a hard one to get hold of, because that's a very popular beer.
Yeah,
it comes and goes.
Yeah, it gets, so we kind of do them annually. So peaches was 2 years ago, cherries was last year, and we will probably do peaches again for next year.
Great stuff. So you were, which I appreciate, at our Brewers Congress last week, speaking, and I didn't mean to flow this in this way, but you were speaking to your friend Basil, from Finback, and you've made no secret of your sort of love of American brewing scene, American beers. I mean, what do you think we touched upon the taproom side of things as well. I feel like beer popularity ebbs and flows from certain scenes, but I feel like there's like an ever-present respect for the US beer industry in the UK. I mean, what can we learn from what's going on there?
From what Basil was saying in the Congress, he was saying that time is changing the way that people in the US perceive beer. So it's not so much focused on the hype around the handful of breweries that just seem to have jumped onto something. It's now the longevity. So the ones that have been there for 10, 12 years now are getting more consistent purchasing. So the growth of the more of the consistent side of the industry, opposed to the flash in the pan, this is a very popular one, this is a very popular one. The hype has kind of died down. I think post-pandemic as well, where people they weren't going to the pub, they had access to the internet and home deliveries, and they were drinking at home. They got to experiment a bit more from trying different stuff from their local brewery, from breweries a bit further afield, something a bit different. I think it's opened up a different route into discovery of beer. And so now this post side of it, where people aren't so driven for the latest release, they're happy with the consistent quality of stuff they were drinking over the lockdowns, and going forward from that, I can see it being a big force and a big driving force of how the industry will change and grow over the next couple of years as we all still recover from all of that. It's they just want reliable, consistent, sessionable beers, apparently. So it's good for us, because we've always been doing it.
That's it, yeah. And for people that want to come and visit Hackney Brewery, what are the opening times of the tap room?
Thursday, Friday, 5 till 11. Saturday, 12 till 11. Sunday, 12 till 8.
Excellent. And can you order online?
You can order online at hackney.beer. And there's a shop on there.
Easy as. Great stuff.
And come and say hello. There's local pubs. Ask them to stock it if you want.
Yeah, we'll do. And what can people look forward to for the rest of this year and into New Year? Are there any sort of plans you can allude to?
So we've just released our annual stout with Thin Man.
Yep.
We managed to partition off a little bit into barrels, so there'll be a very small release of something very special early next year, so like February kind of time. We've got a collab with Abyss coming out I think, in the next couple of weeks. So that's currently in tank. That's Idaho 7 and Eclipse, hazy hoppy, like 4.5-5% kind of easy drinking
Sounds
pale.
Great, yeah. Abysso, great brewery.
And that's
just lots
of little
great
bits.
beer and good times.
Absolutely.
Great stuff. John, great to see you as always.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you. So thanks today to John Swain, co-founder of Hackney Brewery. As John said, you can hit them up online, or even better, come and see their fantastic new space. Well, I say new. It's still new in my eyes.
It's still new.
It is still new. It is here on the Blackhorse Beer Mile. Thanks again, and see you next time.